Hello, this is Bob Loeschel. In this video, you will learn how to use the Desmos calculator to conduct a hypothesis test for the relationship between two categorical variables. The example we'll use comes from the practice of statistics and relates to the table you see here on the screen. It's a two-way table which shows the observed counts from a random sample of 1,526 winter visitors to Yellowstone National Park, and whether they have an environmental club membership and whether or not they've used a snowmobile before, whether they have never used one, they've rented, or owned one. For convenience, I placed a picture here on the screen. That's certainly not something you need to do, but just to be able to see the values, I have it here on my screen. So let's get started. So I'm going up to the plus sign, the Add Item button, and we will do an inference procedure here using the inference widget. I'm looking at categorical data here, and I see chi-squared test for independence. So I'll go ahead and click that. And at this point, I will take the numbers from the table and put them into the little spreadsheet here I see on Desmos. So my top row is 445, said no. I can tab over and add the 212. Be careful, don't put the totals in here. This will automatically total when we're complete. I go down to group B now, 497 and 77. And if I click down to the next row, I will add the next group, which has 279 and 16. Okay, so I have a nice 3x2 table here. At this point, I will create the test. And just for convenience here, I've taken some of my calculator real estate, and by clicking this divider between the graph area and the expression list, I can add more real estate. The chi-squared test does take up some real estate here on the screen. There's a few things we can do here. First, we might want to look at the observed counts. So I'm going to click the drop down for observed counts, and I can compare the observed counts for each of the cells versus the expected counts, which are given in parentheses here. There's also a little triangle here under each where I can see the observed count, the expected count, and also the contribution to the chi-squared statistic, which is very convenient to have. I can also find those by clicking contributions, and I can see here that group 2, group A, which corresponds to the 212 here, those who do have an environmental club membership and never owned a snowmobile, they seem to add the most to the chi-squared statistic, 49.58 it appears. I can also add totals to my table by clicking the totals area. The totals check down here. Now to conduct a hypothesis test, I can click the next drop-down triangle. And I can see that 2 degrees of freedom are here. That's the number of rows minus 1 times the number of columns minus 1. I can also see the p-value, which is less than 0.0001, and the chi is 116.6. If I would like to know more about this p-value, I can click the 3 dots, and I can see that the p-value actually is 4.8 times 10 to the negative 26 power. Quite a small p-value here. And finally, I can take a look at the chi-squared distribution here by exporting the significance diagram, which gives me the picture here on my screen. Now with the p-value so small, there really isn't much of a shaded area. It's way off on the right-hand tail.